What's up, everybody? Joined here on the Hard Money Bankers live show today at 12:30 with the most famous face of Philadelphia. I actually came up with nicknames for you, Mr. George Beatty, in the and we've discussed this 1,000 times. It's Beatty, right?
Beatty, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What
So
the name?
yeah, because I've literally swear I think you've done it different, said it differently like twice, and I was like, wait a minute, I checked this like a long time ago. This is how you say it. But anyways, so I have George here. So George runs, for those that don't know, and everybody that's watching that will see this, and the 100,000 whatever people that are watching this are all probably wholesalers at one point in time or want to be wholesalers. Well, George is debatably probably one of the top 5 largest in the country still, you think, George?
I don't know. I met some guys recently. I don't know if it's top 5. There's some big guys out there. I mean, in terms of like in one single regional market, like it's a pretty big company. The thing, it's just hard to like put an actual ranking on it because nobody publishes numbers or whatever. But yeah, we do a lot of wholesale deals here in Philly. We do a lot of volume and wholesale shit.
The reason I wanted to introduce you with that capacity is that like there's people that build businesses around here, and there's people that like build businesses. And to be at that level of this game, when we had first met, I told you, I built at the time it was a substantial wholesaling business. But it's not even close to what you've accomplished. And, I think like it was important when we started to do this show, obviously to take advantage of the marketing space and the exposure, but it was also to like talk to, guys like Mike McCann and the big market movers in our particular area to see how they're being affected by this thing. And, you were one of the few guys that I reached out to, not that I don't care about other people, but like, I texted you in genuine, hey, what are you doing with your business? And how's your business feeling it? And, is there anything I could really help with? Any questions kind of thing. And I think I had alluded to in a text at one point, like it was wild. You're one of the fastest learning people I've ever met. And it's, at one point you were asking me for advice, and I think you probably still remember like one of our podcasts. I was like, look, dude, I was like, you can keep asking me for advice, but at some point I'm going to be asking you for advice. So I need you to like, remember that when the time comes. Yeah. And it's true because like you gap bridges in knowledge faster than I've ever seen. And that's the real talent to what you've done. Like somehow you know how to listen, when to not listen to people, and then how to apply it, and you make it seem very effortless in the way you go about it. So in building a business in general, I think you're, incredible at it. And I think it's really important right now to have your insight from what is going on in this historical moment. Finally, the Ian meme where like I was riding the bicycle comes true, right? Finally, Ian talking about cycles is real. So talk to me, dude. What is going on with like your business? What are you seeing in the wholesale world, and how are you guys adapting right now?
That's a lot of question there. Let me close the screen so I'm not staring at this Excel thing this whole time. Like, well, it pissed me off.
You walk away when you come back, it'll all be good. Trust me.
What do you say?
Walk away from Excel, and then when you come back, it'll all be good.
So you asked a lot there. There's a lot. So I'm going to start with I think you said, what's George Beatty seeing in the market?
Yeah, let's start there.
Oh yeah. I mean, a huge drop off in activity. I mean, what the fuck? Like, what are you blind? You know what I mean? Like, things are changing, and the rate at which the change is changing is also fast, which is I find to be very exciting, stressful in a lot of ways, but very exciting. I mean, so, if you look at national sales data or even regional sales data, Philadelphia, actually, the area has a dramatically bigger dip than other large market areas, which is rare for us. Typically, we're a little bit more stable. We've had 80% drop in real estate activity, broad strokes. Like, I mean, I've certainly noticed that on my end. It's hard to put a percentage to it.
You think it's just because we're locked down harder? Like if you take like the whole perspective of like the lockdown, like somebody in the middle of like Illinois is probably has no idea what COVID-19 even is.
Yeah, right? But I mean, like in comparison to like New York City and like San Francisco and like places like Denver, like other large areas, like, some without rambling too much, I think that one of the reasons that Philadelphia had a more extreme drop and has not recovered, the chart's from a guy named Mike Del Preet, I think. You'd like the charts, dude. I know you're a chart guy.
Mhm.
But I suspect it's because that Pennsylvania did not name real estate as an essential activity, whereas some other states did. So, like, as an example, like I believe New York City, like, is still, you can still do real estate in New York City, which is like the epicenter of the pandemic. And
yeah, New York and New Jersey, you can. I mean, they put restrictions on, but
right,
you can still
yeah.
slowly move it so it doesn't completely stop it. Yeah, you're right.
So Pennsylvania, the governor was like, nope, just blanket. I mean, there was a case at the Supreme Court. There's been several bills in the state house and Senate and things like that. But I suspect that a huge portion of why we've had such a steep decline is because of specifically the governor's order, which is a little bit more unique here than other areas that are experiencing similar levels of shutdown. So, what that holds for us long term, I don't know. Obviously the economy is suffering. I know a million people that have lost their jobs, and business owners that are struggling and things and so forth. Though we're in a really weird, probably 2 to 6 more months period, probably closer to 6, where no one knows what the fuck is going on. And the no one knows what the fuck is going on is trickling down into, hey, I don't know what my house is really worth, / I still think it's worth what it was a year ago, which I know you've mentioned was a feature of the last correction. Like on the ground, on the street, so to speak, we're still selling deals, though, like we're doing a lot of shit over the phone, and like, it's not the same, right? So like in normal times, we would send out an email with like a new deal. Like we're still putting houses under contract. Like I'm still marketing, like I'm shifting up what I'm doing for marketing, but we're still doing that. But, people are hesitant to have us out to the property. They're hesitant to sell it over the phone. It sucks, right? But the biggest thing, frankly, has been we're selling deals for a lot less money than we were a few months ago. The number of people going to see them is dramatically lower, and the number of offers that go through is also dramatically lower, both in number as well as the sheer number of offers. Like, as an example, we have a deal for sale like just south of Washington in 19147, I believe it is, in South Philly. Hot area. Everyone falls over themselves going there. Property's not perfect, of course. There's like, it's a wholesale deal, right? There's always something fucked up with it, sort of just by a rule, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't sell it to a wholesaler. But there's a comp for like 230 grand, a cash comp. They flipped it and sold it. I don't remember what they sold it for. We have it under contract for way less than 200, but we're having trouble selling it for 200, right? Which normally in this, in that area, we push fucking 20, 30 people through a mass showing, get a bunch of bids, and then rock it out. But like, we're not doing mass showings because it's, debatably ethically wrong at this point. But instead of having 20 people interested, we may have like 3. But it's
so that's a 15% drop, not even including, that's a 15% drop in a hot area.
Yeah, it's so numbers wise. So year over year, April, we wrote up 16 transactions last year, like put 16 houses under contract last year in April. This year, we also did 16, though, we were on pace to like do a lot more than that at the beginning of the year in April and rah, rah, rah. But what we're selling our deals for is like 60 or 70 percent lower than what we were selling them for last year. I'm sorry, not in terms of sale price, but in terms of assignment fee, which is like mostly what I measure. You know what I mean? So, like a 10% drop in price, which is, I would imagine you're probably underwriting a 10%, 15% drop in price right now.
Yeah, very much in that range.
Depending on the area, that percentage drop of price translates to a significant portion of my assignment fee, right? So
yeah, right.
Sort of navigating that period now is like weird, because like if you had asked me 6 weeks ago, how long is the shutdown going to last? Like I would have said June, like, though I would have also thought that some activity would be beginning to come back by now. And I just didn't, it's like, this has never happened before. I don't know what it's going to be like. I also would have said that they're going to name real estate as essential because the federal government put out some guidelines saying that real estate should be essential, but yeah, it's fucking weird. Sorry, without rambling too much, what I'm seeing is a significant drop off in activity and overall certainty in where the market's going to be in a little while, and a massive amount of lenders pulling out of the space. Less so guys like you, but definitely like your Limas, your guys that go to the secondary market and sell the loan on Wall Street or whatever. Like Wall Street's not buying the loans anymore or whatever. And, though I mostly sell to people with cash or their uncle is lending them money, those people buying those properties inflates the overall value of the assets, and also, produces more flips and so on and so forth. So even though that affected me actually pretty significantly on one wholesale deal, we were going to make 60 grand on it. Lender pulled back and made like 25, 30, which sucks. But yeah, it's different out there. You know what I mean? It's weird. Yeah.
What do you, all right. So are you finding a bottom? So what I think has to occur, is that we are one of the most locked down cities in the country right now. And if Wolf has any shot at winning any re-election, and not leave everybody with a bad taste in their mouth, he's going to have to act like this.
Wolf is in his last term and is unable to run for another one, and also is not up for a re-election until 2023.
So what's the agenda?
Not a factor at all. In other words, which is I think one of the reasons why we're having some of the issues that we are.
Maybe dragging it out is because he got nothing on the line. Who knows?
Yeah, So here's the thing. I know this isn't what you guys asked me to talk about, but I'm going to do it.
No, talk. Do it.
I've been doing a lot of reading, and I've been doing some skill building. I'm close to trying to teach myself how to use Python. I've been teaching myself how to do all this shit in fucking Excel. I'm pretty good at it. And if I learn this programming language, I can do all this other stuff. I'm what happened to me? I used to be so cool, No,
nerd out, do it.
Yeah. So, oh God, yeah. Don't even bring me started. So anyway, I'm reading all this financial data and, reading things from the Fed and all these studies that they put together, because they put together a ton of stuff like that, which is fascinating. All kinds of studies from the Fed. So I believe St. Louis Fed in 2007, could have been 2017, forgive me, did a study about the 1918 pandemic and its effects on the economy and the effects of varying states of lockdowns on the economy, both local and nationally. And without getting too much into Denver did this and California did this, the faster and more severe a lockdown occurred and the longer that it lasted, overall, in the long run, the more their economy got back to normal faster and the less people died, right? So on the one, and that was 100 years ago, different time in humanity, less transportation, the economy was also very different.
Information travels slower.
Right?
Information travels much slower.
Yeah, a lot of different factors going on then, certainly. But, from the one hand, short-sighted business owner George that's upset now wants them to open up, though long-term, what's best for America George isn't quite sure what the answer to that is, frankly.
Does this George believe, the numbers warrant what's happening, in general? So forget the 1918 pandemic.
So you want to have a debate about what the value of a human life is relative to a unit of economic activity? Because
I actually
reading about that,
and I actually know this answer, and I actually know this.
$60,000. Yeah.
What's that?
It's $60,000.
And the problem is the stimulus package far exceeded that. In terms I was looking at it from a GDP standpoint.
So according to an insurance company, what they will pay for a life-saving thing or not is right around 65 grand. So if a life-saving procedure is more than $65,000, they won't pay for it. It's 65 grand. GDP could be closer to 100, 120, but I think that question is less stimulus related and more so how many people are dying versus how much money are we losing related.
Correct. Like the balance isn't there at this point. You know, I think, I don't know, did you listen to the Elon Musk Rogan podcast yet?
No, I probably will. I like both of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. You gotta. I don't care whether you like Elon Musk or not. You gotta listen to him, right? You just have
Tesla,
to.
you know what I mean? I like the guy.
Yeah, Tesla,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, you love him. So,
Yeah,
but
so-
one of the things he said on there I thought was super important was that he's like, look, and obviously he wants the country to reopen, but he's like, look, we are looking at right now, when this is all said and done, a factor of 10 to 50 times less in the death rate than initially anticipated. He's like, what do we do? Like 10 to 50 times. Like we're talking like under 250,000 people dying total.
Yeah.
It's a little bonkers.
A couple things on that really quickly. So one is, if the shutdowns work, people will always say that we didn't need to do them because they worked. And
True.
then there's all this evidence that, right? So, you know, like, it's not like, these aren't exclusively about saving lives, right? Like to me, from mostly what I've read, the overarching goals of the shutdown are to stop the healthcare system from being overwhelmed, which then would likely cause more deaths. You know, like it.
I mean, especially in the New York area, that is very true, because they hit capacity, the hospitals, so quickly back in March that it was literally a matter of, we don't have room for anyone else. Even no matter your numbers, it doesn't even matter if you're coming in for COVID or not. We don't have room to help anyone.
Yep.
So they had to slow that down.
That's right. And then your death rate will spike more, you know, like there's some factors there, but like, you know, what would it do to GDP if 1 million people die? Right? You know, like what does that do to like America's strength, you know, if 1 million people, you know, and there's a lot, you know, it's hard to debate or really see what the answer to that really truly is. But to answer your question, like, how do I feel about the number of people, blah, 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 blah. Like I go to the city a few times a week to work out outside. Like, you know, I do sprints and stuff like that, or like push-ups outside and things like that. There's been an increasing amount of traffic in the last few weeks. Like I actually got stuck in traffic today. Hasn't happened in months. Right. So, you know, like, yeah, I mean, how do I say this? I personally, from my perspective, am in support of opening some types of things up. But at the same time, like the scope of things that I don't know are like huge, where it would be like, I wouldn't trust me to make a decision about that. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
That's a fair statement. I mean, not enough information. Like that's a very, you know, Ryan always says that when we play our nerdy video games, we are always like, the one thing you always look at is like, do you have enough information to make a decision right now? And when you think you have, like, there's like speculative decision making, and then there is, do we have enough information? And there's a big difference between the two, because one gets you killed, and the other keeps you alive.
Yeah,
literally.
But the thing is, like, you never have enough information to make a decision, like, almost ever. So you sort of have to. So, you know, looking at it from the pragmatic, like, okay, I have to make a decision. What am I going to do? Probably start slowly opening some things up based on some of the data. A lot of the rates have dropped significantly in this area and other areas. But like, there's also like massive issues with testing, right? How many tests are being done? Are there enough tests? Like, you know what I mean? So like they just had a UFC fight on Saturday, which was fucking great to watch some fights, like really great.
My buddy was like, did you order it? I was like, I didn't order it. I was like, this is like a historical moment in sports, the day the world opened, right? Like that was, this was bigger.
Money.
Oh
so
my gosh, yeah.
They tested everybody that was there, and one of the UFC fighters tested positive.
Yeah, shocker, right?
He wasn't coughing. He was just like, oh shit, I have fucking coronavirus, right?
Yeah.
So like, even if they did open things up, like I'm not going to a movie theater or like going into a crowded restaurant. Like I'm not fucking doing that, right? I imagine a lot of other people do.
The self-policing fear shock factor is like real right now, right? So
yeah, I don't know it's real, but I don't think that it's unwarranted, right? So like,
how fast does it wear off though, right? Like everybody was scared to fly after 9/11, right? But that lasted like a month, and then everybody's like back in the air. You know, how long does this last though? Will people like
longer?
Okay, so that's
you know, like how often were we hearing about SARS and swine flu and H1N1? Like it was every couple of years there was some new. It always had a fucking China too. There's always some new fucking bat virus coming out of China or whatever. But you know, I think when those things hit the news in the future, like there's going to be people are going to be upset about them. And they're going to be scared.
Oh, do you think we're going to be like panic, like real panic? That as soon as you say like new bug, like everybody's going to just like huddle into their houses?
I do think that. That's what happened in 2002, and people were like, "Oh, new terrorist" or whatever. People were like, "Oh,
yeah, you're right. That's that's a terrible way to live."
You know, but
that's a terrible way to live.
It takes. I mean, look, it took 10 or 15, or when was the financial crisis? 10 years ago, 13 years ago. It took 13 years for people to forget that happened. It probably realistically took 8 or 9 years, and then people like I kind of forgot about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that's true.
You know, when I read economic stuff or like I look at people that know what they're doing and what do they think, they're like, we see no signs of anything. Like,
and you feel like it can't happen. You get
yeah, but like the flip side is like typically guys that are like, hey, we see no evidence that something like this could happen, but like bubbles happen, so like it still could. We think, but they were all saying after the after the election. But this is right out of left field. But I think people will be super attuned to similar things like this occurring for the next several years, and then it'll leave the public consciousness, and then it'll be fine. I'm sure people were worried about fucking a war with Russia until like 1996, probably when after the collapse, right? But 91, sure. 92, 93 was probably still everyone was freaking out about it. But I'm not worried about getting nuked, really, right?
Nah, it's not really. I'm not on my first thoughts. No, for sure. Well, as we shift right now, like through a bottom, I meant this when I texted you, was that you are going to be one of the first to find it in what you do for a living, and at the volume you do it. It's really like I'll be somewhere in that mix, like with dealing with investors all the time, but you're really on the front lines of finding a bottom right now, and so. Right now you're not seeing a bottom. Right now you're still bottoming out, right? You're still feeling that coming and trying to figure out how those margins are getting squeezed.
Well,
so do you see any signs of more or less in what you're seeing right now?
That's really hard because like realtors aren't doing activity. Like our major buyer pool is real estate agents representing cash buyers. 80 or 90% of them aren't working. Some of them are. Like most of the people that actually do business are, right? Like I'm still fucking making phone calls or whatever, right?
Sure.
But, like oftentimes when I see things like that, it's really not like a moment. It's like, oh, this last 6 weeks to 2 month period felt like X, and I don't think we know what's going to happen after the shutdown is lifted on essential services or on real estate, at least. And we don't know what's going to happen with people like going back to school, and what that looks like. And, like whether we're plateauing at the bottom or whatever is one thing, but like, I'm not sure, but I feel like we hit an activity bottom a couple weeks ago in terms of like people just hunkering down inside their house and refusing to do anything. Like people are coming outside, they're going to the beach,
that's true,
doing things like that. I mean, it's May and it's beautiful outside, right? Like there's a trigger for that somewhere.
But as far as like your sellers and so forth, like you haven't seen any equity strips yet or anything like that people are like, yep, the value's gone. Like there's no way because it happened too fast that they could be feeling that.
Oh, I mean, a little bit, but like not really. I mean, like we're comping things now as if they're worth what they were a few months ago, minus a few percentage points or minus some type of discounting, right? But like, we're wholesalers. We're already getting stuff under market. Like that's like the whole business. But we've had a few sellers being like, holy shit, like coronavirus, I got to sell my house or whatever. We've had a few people from New York calling us to sell properties in the Poconos. Like we haven't connected on them, but not really. I don't expect, because the thing is, Ian, I haven't discounted what they're worth yet. And I'm in fucking real estate, right? Like, I would be like banks have, right? A lot of, as I'm sure you guys know, a lot of banks are adjusting appraisals or what have you, but like, it's like,
that's a really good point. Don't blow that over because like you said, you haven't adjusted, because I remember when we were doing this, I had that was the fight. I already adjusted. I was like, these are the real comps, people. Why aren't you seeing this? The sellers are going, no, this isn't the real comps. Like you haven't even done that yet.
No, well, there aren't comps yet.
Right, there aren't comps.
That's the thing. Yeah, in 2007 or whatever, here's all these foreclosures. Banks are selling them for pennies on the dollar. So, you look at a seller and you're like, look, man, I could buy this house over here for 30 grand less than you want. It's in nicer condition. I like you, but here's the reality of the situation. Or at least I'm imagining a conversation might go that way. But right now, it's just like that isn't happening yet.
Hasn't
like
even occurred.
Like I have a couple hard money loans out on deals that I'm like waiting to refi out on, and I'm bleeding money on them, right? But I have lots of cash reserves, and it's not the end of the world. I bought them right, blah 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 blah. But there's a lot of people that were not buying them right, bought things by the skin of their teeth. Their loans are getting called, you know what I mean, or what have you. So we haven't seen that inventory really hit the market to affect pricing. On the commercial side, I'm looking for new office space now and negotiating and stuff like that. And the agents that are representing those places have been yeah, there's been a full stop. And me knowing okay, every restaurant in Philly just went out of business, right? Or 80% of them did. Who knows what's happening to retail? Boyd's is discounting all their shit. Del Frisco's is discounting all their shit. There's a lot of commercial tenants that are going to be disappearing, or at least going bankrupt or whatever. But there's going to be a supply thing on that side. Why wouldn't there be one on the residential side? You're going to have people that are either cashing out their investments because their business is failing, or they can't afford their debt service anymore or whatever. That's going to happen, but it's not happening yet. I guess is.
So we're fishing for a bottom still.
Yeah,
it may be there, but we're still fishing. We're not sure.
Yeah, I don't think there's no definitive information. So it sucks. It's not like the stock market, right? Where you're the Dow was at $5,000, now it's at $7,000. You know what I mean?
Well, the way that it is like the stock market is you have the institutional guys that know whether they're going to pay this or pay that, right? They're what you are in the real estate world of your fishing game, right? So the individual small buyers and sellers, the retail guys, really aren't going to be able to give a pulse. But when you're doing the volume that you do, you're an institutional buyer on the Wall Street front, and you get to go, all right, there's a shift happening right now on the overall perspective. I can see this across $10 million in transactions. You will see that before the rest of us.
Yeah. Oh, right when the shutdown, May 16th, May 20th, right around that period, a week before that, things started getting a little weird. But as soon as Philadelphia, the area actually shut down, we have regular buyers that would buy stuff from us for $80,000 or whatever. They're nah, I'm only buying it if it's 60. Which that's already happening, right? So there's a significant amount of that already happening. Oh yeah, I guess there probably are more lower sale values, just probably maybe on the investment side, or maybe there's not a tremendous amount of them yet, but they're coming. But yeah, I don't know, dude. Finding the bottom is I don't know if that helps me from a practicality standpoint. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I got to put stuff under contract for as low as I can and sell it for as much as I can. Knowing if things are going down or knowing if things are going up is important. But right now they're going down, if not plateaued at that down shifted spot.
I remember. Yeah, go ahead, Ray.
Have you noticed anything in terms of city of Philadelphia versus the suburbs of Philadelphia? Meaning, my speculation is that a lot of people are going to be trying to move out of cities because of all this. So I'm wondering if you're seeing any data points that would support that, or just not yet.
So you're saying on a macro standpoint, the flight into cities that's occurred for the last 10 or 20 years is going to reverse back to the suburbs or rural.
At least temporarily, you could have a shift.
Yeah.
I have not noticed or even looked into anything of that nature. Anecdotally, we still have for Philadelphia, typically the suburbs are a lot more stable than the city.
Right.
We have buyers asking us for stuff in the suburbs, and we're still selling them, I guess, for closer to what we would expect to be out there than some of the areas in the city. But yeah, it's hard because on the one hand, it's hard for me to be scientific about it, because though I am doing a decent amount of volume, a lot of it's really geographically spread out and also in different price points. So at any given time, yeah, we've got a bunch of transactions going, but we have one in Northeast Philly, one in South Philly, one in Ridley or Norristown or what have you. So, like if I had all 10 in Norristown, I could say, oh, this is all going on right now. But like, there's a lot of other different factors there where it's hard for me to make a blanket statement based upon our selling experience and say, oh yeah, this is true in the suburbs or not. But, again, anecdotally, suburbs are a little bit healthier than the city, but I didn't really consider the maybe people are going to move out of the city angle, which I doubt. I don't think that will happen.
Yeah, I think one thing I definitely noticed is that usually when I'm having a thought in my brain that thinking like, all right, so for instance, like the food issue, right? So I'm like, man, I wonder if people are like knowing, like how many people are really nervous about this like meat issue, right? Like by the time I've already thought of it, I already assume that everybody in the world has thought of it. And that usually the case is true. So if like Ryan's having that fear, I'm like, and the reason I know is because recently I had the reason I would not know, I don't know, but the reason I have like I'm like, damn it, everybody thinks this right now. I recently had like a listing sent to me that because I'm looking for my own house. I've been looking for my own house for like 2 years. But it came over and I was like, all right, this one looks good. I'm going to call up, nobody's buying right now. This is in the middle of this thing. And the lady was like, I've had 5 people call me this morning for this house. And I'm like, oh, damn it.
Yep.
I'm like, everybody's thinking what I'm thinking. Everybody's scared about being in the city and they're out, So like, but I don't know, just like the 9/11 factor, just like when they were afraid to fly. I don't think it's like a prolonged thing. I think people will be scared for like 6 months after. And all of a sudden you have a shoot up in like suburb prices. And then like, everybody's like, all right. Like, we're staying in the city. So I don't think it's like a very long-term thing personally.
Yeah. It might depend on the profile, like certain profiles of people may try to leave the city or go to the city for that matter, or what have you. That'll be interesting to see. I didn't consider that. But I'll keep an eye on that. That is quite fascinating.
Cities are a terrifying place to be during something like this, in my opinion. It's just
really what this is probably going to do is exacerbate the wealth divide and the haves and the have-nots, and probably pour some gasoline on the whole populism thing, which is, to me, a greater risk than all that stuff. Is frankly that. So, as an example, Ian, with your place you're moving to, I would imagine you're not moving to a shithole or like a blue collar neighborhood. I imagine it's more, probably have a nice yard, a little bit more white collar. Right. So many of those people didn't lose their jobs or are lawyers or gainfully employed or very, very, okay. So, people in that position are going to be like, oh shit, I might get a really great deal right now. It's really hard for me to find a house in Haddonfield. Where are you looking to move?
Anywhere 20 minutes outside the city, all the way out to Harrisburg, Reading, anywhere that 12 acres of land,
that's a lot of land. I was going to say, man, I live in Narberth. I love it. It's right by the city.
It's great. I need like 12 would be great, but two plus like.
Dude, you're paying $2 or $3 million for 2 or 3 acres in Narberth for sure.
I'm not.
It's
a nice
area. But anyway, like there's probably a bunch of people thinking the same shit that you are. They're all like, I got money, I'll fucking get a great deal. I've been buying clothes and like food and stuff. I've been getting I bought all these gift certificates for like discount, like, you know what I mean? I got all these great deals on stuff. Cause that's nice, right?
Why not?
Yeah. But, it's,
I think your point is spot on in the sense of the lower class right now is getting hurt the most by far by all of this.
Oh, certainly.
So a lot of people who are in real estate, even watching this video, you are not in the same situation as those 30 million unemployed right now. So
yeah, it's less likely. The flip side is like my revenue dropped by like 70%, like, you know what I mean? Or 60 something percent, which fucking sucks. You know what I mean? Like I burned 40 grand last month. Can't do that for very long, right? Well, I can do it for a while, but, like that sucks. But, I'm well capitalized. My finances are good. You know what I mean? Like I have a good business and blah, blah, blah. But, like you're going to see a survival of the fittest thing. A lot of it's going to have to do with who gets loans from the government and who doesn't. And it's going to be interesting to see, but,
not that you guys have like a lot of competitors, but you're used to walking into houses where you have multiple wholesalers.
That's been disappeared. Yeah.
That's disappeared. That has already disappeared.
It's too soon to say whether it has, but it's going. I would bet whatever you would want that
I would bet too. For sure. You guys are going to be at a point. You're just going to be picky. Like back when we were doing it, I remember when that happened, and it was like it went from like everybody wholesaling to like I didn't even think anymore about any competitors, and then it heck started to come back. But,
yeah.
It wasn't even on the radar. Like there was a bottoming out part for sure on that capacity with like everybody wholesaling and not wholesaling. So like you might end up making up those margins in sheer volume, not by choice necessarily, but just by like because that's what's happening at the moment. Nobody's there to pick them up, and you're just like, we're doing twice the volume.
That's kind of what I'm looking at. Like that's it's kind of what I'm hoping for. But a lot of the smaller, like if people have systems and they're somewhat organized, they could probably get through something like this fine. Like wholesaling is, you can just stop marketing and there goes your overhead for most people. You know what I mean? So, like I have employees and rent and things like that. So a little bit more, but but most like wholesalers are people that send out 500 pieces of mail or a couple thousand pieces of mail and are just like trying to get lucky. And they're probably same thing with flippers, but they're going to disappear. Right. So if they have, but we'll see. I'm excited.
I'd really like to do so. I know as much as you want to talk to me, you want to get that Excel file done for sure, because I know it's in the back of your mind. But I want to do this again with you specifically, if you don't mind, when as we move through this cycle, because I think you more than anybody else I talk to is going to be like you are literally the business that gets to feel that first, on both sides, right? Like you're going to feel like the bottoming process first, and then everybody's going to lag you. And then I'll be somewhere like right behind you with that, kind of the way it goes, because a lot of guys come to me for that stuff. But like you are the front line of that. So I think it'll be good to be like, when we do this again in like a month or two, and be like, hey, how has it changed? Because it will be different for you first. And then by the time, the realtors all get news of it and the retail all get news of it, you'll have already been in that position for like a month or two.
Yeah, it's interesting to think of that. That's what happened in like 2017, 2018 with the market was like growing so fast in 2017, and then it was just normal in 2018. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then in 2019, right in like fucking February in 2018, I was like, things aren't fucking buck wild anymore. It's like,
but nobody would have said that. Everybody had to lag you, right? Like nobody would have said that.
Yeah.
Then. And everybody, but like,
yeah, it's crazy. It's like it's not, it's still good, but it's not like you're not selling something for 20% more than the comps are when the comps are 3 months old. Like
I remember early 18, I remember saying to myself, I'm like, I felt a lot of things like just the feel of business. And I remember saying, when we look back on this, 17 spring might have been the height of the actual pricing in the market. That might have been like, so like you can still go up and then drift and like business can still be done, but like legitimate pricing might have hit its head on the 17 spring. I was like, something was different.
The pricing, I think a lot. Yeah. At least as a wholesaler, mostly what I feel is the how steep the chart is, right?
Yeah.
Is it going up fast, going down fast? You know what I mean? Like, because the chart was going up fucking quick in 2017. Now it's going down, going down fast. Like I really feel that. But stable prices are not bad for me. That's really fine. I like stability. Stability is predictable and therefore scalable. So
agreed on both fronts of that. So all right, man. Well, let's do this. Let's do this when the market starts to do something new, which next time would be, let's see what the hell the reopening looks like for everybody.
Yeah, I'm excited. We'll see.
All right, homie. Appreciate you. All right, man.
See you, George.
Good to see you, Ryan.